Hany. It is so great to reconnect after all of these years. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Such a pleasure, Karen, as always with you.
So you have been pretty busy all of these years building Markaaz, a global data network designed to be the source of truth for any business looking to get data on any business, but small and medium-sized enterprises in particular, which has been a real problem for everyone, including financial institutions, for a very long time. It's been a 4-year journey, but one that has resulted in this worldwide multi-sided network of some 330 million businesses, including small, medium-sized enterprises, of course. The relying parties who want to use the data in supportive use cases for their business, and obviously the information sources. So that's a lot of data to collect. No wonder it's taken 4 years to put it all together. But before I get into how you did it, I want to get into why you did it. So the data network is the outcome, but what was the problem you wanted to solve?
Karen, first of all, thank you for framing it so perfectly. I think I'm going to trade jobs with you and let you run this business, as always. Karen, you'll remember we built a platform called Track previously, which was the first ever attempt to create a pre-populated directory of every supplier and buyer on planet Earth. And we successfully launched that. Learning from that experience, we addressed a number of pain points specific to businesses, but as you say, specifically small and medium businesses, where we found a few fundamental things were going on. First of all, before COVID, small and medium businesses were spending about 17 and a half days a year verifying and re-verifying themselves.
Wow.
That number has jumped to 1/3 of their time since COVID. It's enormous, and you can imagine the inefficiency of that. But more importantly, the market can't verify about 30% of small businesses today. That means when you look at all the legacy players who have been doing this for a long time, and then you look at all the new players who haven't created a pre-populated directory and a fast ingestion engine or a two-sided platform, 30% of businesses get rejected for basic services like credit cards, bank accounts, et cetera, because they can't be verified. And we see that number consistently across the whole world, and specifically with large institutions. Part one. Part two, the market is flooded with point solutions, something that does a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No one has brought together in a single pre-populated directory a comprehensive view of every business on planet Earth, and a two-sided platform that allows the parties to securely and respecting privacy connect with each other and create real-time mutually consented monitoring. So that's a big deal. And then last but not least, this is a 40-year problem, as you know, that has not been addressed or failed to be addressed in the market, because many of the business models that are in the market just do not support the cleaning up of data about businesses, and very particularly about small business data.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you, why hasn't this been done before? Because it is not a new problem. It's a 40-year problem. And to your point, it's only getting worse. I mean, you obviously have the experience in building this business directory, so obviously went in with the knowledge and the technology understanding to tackle it. But why hasn't this been attempted before?
So there's 3 reasons, Karen. Reason number 1 is there's a lot of disparate data about businesses out there. You know, businesses, particularly small businesses, use DBAs or names or lots of different things, and the deduping and matching of all those data sources. And we pull from 65,000 data sources across the world, and we do our own deduping and matching. And we look at historical and current data as well. That's not been done before. That's a Herculean lift, number 1. It's very expensive, and it's a Herculean lift to do that. Problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the data changes very rapidly. So the speed with which data is ingested and updated is a really significant challenge. And most of the legacy businesses are just not that fast at updating that data. I can give you many examples where credit bureaus, you know, data updates can be up to 220, 230 days. The big legacy players have gaps in their data, and they fill that with statistical models as opposed to data itself. And more importantly, there hasn't been a platform to date where the small business can come in and actually clean up their data, and where the small business actually understands the value of cleaning up their data and keeping it updated.
Sure.
Now, with that said, you can't have businesses come in and change their credit scores or change something else without significant verification around even things like address changes, etc. But we do that. We've done that. So we've actually created for the first time ever a pre-populated directory where the call to action is an enterprise inviting a business, a small business, to come claim their record, clean up their data, populate a private vault, which we built that is unhackable, with non-public data, so that any two parties can connect with each other, do business with each other, and soon pay each other as well.
Mm-hmm. So Hany, how do you validate that the business data that the small business is putting into their vault is accurate and reliable? Suppose it's different than what you already have in there. I mean, markedly different.
So it's a great question, Karen. If it's different, we actually have a conflict resolution engine. We use very powerful AI and ML, machine learning, to do that. But we also have a data stewardship team that actually looks at those exception cases that come up. Part one. Part two, when a business provides information or wants to correct something, we ask for supporting documents at bank grade. So they can't just come in and change it. They actually have to put into the vault supporting documentation. For instance, beneficial ownership of businesses, which is an elusive topic that is very difficult, as you know. We do that at bank grade, i.e. at a level that a bank can rely on that information for beneficial ownership and accurate beneficial ownership of businesses. And we do that historically, and we do it at current levels. And then anytime those elements change, or we see a change, there's the opportunity for one or both parties to say to each other, hey, I noticed a change in this. Can you confirm or verify that?
So Hany, you talk about the 65,000 sources. I'm sure you went through many more of them to whittle down to those that you deemed reliable. How do you determine what's reliable, given what you say is that until businesses claim their data source, you have to make sure that you have the most current data from all of your sources so that what you're presenting is in fact the most accurate picture of what you have as the source of truth. How do you make those decisions?
Karen, that's very well said. So if we bucket the data into publicly available data and then in non-public data, on the publicly available data, it's part of our unique proposition and our secret sauce and our experience, frankly. You know, some of the people that are involved with this business, they're leaders in their own right, and probably arguably the most comprehensive collection of leaders in the space. Part one. Part two, we've used many of these data sources before, and we're not overweight on any of them. So we pull in all the data, and then our own technology looks at that and looks at the resolution of the differences, and comes up, as you said, with the most complete and accurate picture of the public data. That we do. That's very hard to do, you know, and because we've done it before, and the people who did it with us previously on the previous platform are with us again this time. So we could leapfrog years and years and years of clumsiness. With all the money in the world, there's probably 36 plus months to get to where we are, and then imagine where we'll be in that sort of time frame. Part one. Part two, as you indicated, is the non-public data. And again, creating a secure portal. We secure every element that goes into the vault with keys. We secure every vault with keys. We secure every user with keys. Then there's all of our security on top of that. And I should just say on that, you know, before we wrote a line of code in this business, we made sure we were GDPR compliant, even though that's not a requirement in many markets. We're now GDPR 2 compliant, ISO 27001, 2770, SOC 2 Type 2 security, and very soon we'll actually be FedRAMP certified, which means we'll be at a level where the US federal government can rely on our data. And there's only a handful of companies across the world that can do that. So that combination of the best-in-class public data and the end-user participation is what makes us entirely unique in the market today. And then on an ongoing basis, then to any two parties, let's say a bank and an applicant for something, can agree what they want to monitor with each other. Explicit consent has to be given on the what and the frequency, and then we'll administer that between two parties in an automated fashion. And to give you a sense, we can do that in sub 2 second, and very soon we'll be at sub millisecond timeframes to do that, which is unheard of in the market today.
I'll say. I want to to understand a little bit more about this contextual view you provide of the small, medium-sized business, because it's the usual name, rank, and serial number. I mean, organizing is just a huge benefit. But what about some of the other, more qualitative data sources that provide a more holistic sense of business performance and business viability?
That's a great question, Karen. We believe that credit scores are becoming increasingly a blunt instrument, as you say, name, rank, and serial number. In many cases, businesses don't even have a credit score. They haven't hit the tripwires to have a credit score. They're unaware of their credit score. And as you know very well, most businesses dealing with small businesses do not look at the score of the business. They simply trigger off the primary owner of the business, which, as you well know and I well know, effectively destroys the business owner's credit score, just by definition, and also provides a completely inaccurate or blunt instrument for looking at that business. Part one. We believe that scoring in this day and age, not only because of AI, but because of the depth and breadth and the two-sided nature of our business, we believe that where we will move to is real-time contextual scoring, i.e., you and I want to do business around a certain thing. There are specific aspects of what we want to do together. We will score that in real time, and that score will change dynamically from second to second, minute to minute. We're not there yet with that, but that's where we're going. And then second to that, we want to build the first ever trust bureau for business data, which means whether it's non-public data, as you described, or public data, we can say we have a super high degree of confidence around this data. This data we've triangulated through multiple sources, or this data has simply been provided, but we can't vouch for it. That's never existed before. So you're absolutely right in terms of getting away from the name, rank, and serial number model or the blunt instrument of the credit score for a business owner in terms of how enterprises deal with businesses. In the retail space, retailers tell us we'd love to do more business with minority-owned businesses or, local providers, but it's so manual a process today because of the poor quality of data and the lack of availability of real-time monitoring. It's too cumbersome. Markaaz automates that and can actually provide automated supplier verification, onboarding, and monitoring. And in fact, we can go one step earlier and actually provide a prospecting capability where people can say, I'm looking for customers that fit this profile. You can do that on Markaaz today as well.
So it almost seems like credit score is the wrong label for this scoring. It seems like the scoring is a much richer perspective of the business, almost business viability, business vitality, because it can change. I mean, businesses go through ebbs and flows and seasonality and all of those things affect, that moment in time. How would you describe the scoring? How would you name it? How would you describe it to someone else?
You just actually said the perfect thing at that point in time. So the single word I would use is contextual score. So it's really based on what people are trying to do at that moment in time. If I'm looking to find, verify, onboard a supplier, that's one type of score. And for what? What are the things that are most important to me? Reliability. Is that business going to still be in business in 3 months? Have they had stable ownership? How long have they been in business? Have the owners of the business been involved with other things in the past? Do they get triggered on any sanctions list or negative news, et cetera, et cetera? We can do all of that. The second example is, and there are many, but the second example is today, as you know, in most financial institutions, there's two databases. There's the database where they dump all the publicly available information about their customers, and the other one where they keep all this stuff that they know about their customers, which they actually think is their data, not the customer's data. And the two never talk to each other. And so both databases get out of sync and get out of date. And we've had a number of tier one institutions say, are you able to replace this mess with one single, clean, up-to-date data, and more importantly, keep it up to date? Now, that also includes things like, I have a customer in my consumer portfolio. Are they really a consumer or are they a small business? I don't know and I can't tell. We can do that. And the beauty for us is we can do all of that in a parameterized way with businesses, so that not only do we clean data in one go for both an enterprise and a business, but we keep it that way. And then we score on a contextual basis.
For once, this gives small business owners an incentive to keep their data up to date, because if there are so many places that a small business has to update their data, as you say, what, a third of their time is now spent doing that? There's a limit to how much time a small business owner can invest in doing that. So
absolutely,
it's an opportunity for them to do it, have a place to do it consistently, where, with their permission, of course, other relying parties can access that and make their decisions.
Yeah. And the other important point, building on what you just said, is, okay, if I do this, what's it going to do for me? Am I going to get better rates? Am I going to get better access? Are we going to see for the first time the idea of dynamic lines for businesses, which have been talked about for over a decade and we've never been able to achieve? And how do we apply that utility to trust, so that not only is the business seeing a demonstrable benefit from doing this or keeping it up to date, but then using the same platform for their own customers. So a small business's own suppliers or their own distributors or their own customers that they do business with. So it's a virtuous flywheel that goes around.
It's interesting. I want to ask you maybe a delicate question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So we now have this perfect information that lenders can use to decide how much and when to extend credit to a small business. Are traditional financial institutions in a position using that data to deliver the right products and services to those businesses? Or is this an opportunity to rethink how banks and small businesses engage when it comes to credit?
Karen, I love talking to you because you're always so on the pulse of the most topical topics in the world. I love it. It's both. Let me say it this way. I think there are some institutions that are going to be winners and are going to conquest other institutions' customers because they're thinking actively about this. They've got the resolve to do something about it. And they're coming to us and saying, okay, I'm tired of missing out on 30% of applicants, which, by the way, for a large bank in the United States, that's on card alone, that's a couple of $100 million a year in foregone revenue. But better servicing those customers, et cetera. So in a number of studies we've done with the largest financial institutions in the United States, we've usually started with one division. It might be card, it might be loans, it might be account openings. And very quickly, we find that it opens up to the entire bank. Now, with that said, two very important things. The old adage, no one gets fired for, selecting IBM. Sorry to the IBM folks, but we're dealing with some of that in some of these legacy institutions. And so there really needs to be, and we're seeing it in almost all these institutions, a burning platform. We find it moves the fastest where the top of house is engaged, understands what this can do for the bank. I had a letter the other day from a vice chairman of one of the top 3 banks in the United States who said, I'm here, I know about Markaaz. What can I do to help accelerate? We're keen to drive innovation in the bank. There will be winners when you get that level of energy and you don't get put into the usual tech pipeline to be implemented. And by the way, speaking of that, businesses, let's talk about banks because that's who we're talking about at the moment, can connect to us in one of 3 ways. They can either do batch file transfers, which require no coding and IT. They can do secure lookups, which also don't require any IT resources, or they can do a full API, bidirectional API integration, which the fastest we've seen done is about 3 days. So it's very light touch.
3 days.
3 days, very light touch to do it. Secondly, we made a conscious decision when we established Markaaz to price it at the bottom of the market. We were quite happy to coexist with whoever they're using today and prove to people that we're worthy of being higher up the waterfall. We win every time we do that, every single time.
I'm sure that's true. You might have just answered my next question, which is, why did you decide to spend 4 years getting data on every business rather than taking a small piece of the world and launching a minimum viable product, testing and learning and building. What you just said about, the 3 days of integration, making sure that the platform is easy to ingest in these financial institutions, may be one of the answers to that question. But I'm curious, why the everything all at once?
Yeah. So this is a great question again, Karen. This business, by the way, you haven't asked me this question, but this business is entirely privately funded. Which gave us degrees of freedom.
Sure.
The second thing is every single one of the advisors in this business, and that list is growing, is an investor in the business. That means they believe not only with their reputation, but with their money. They've entrusted us with their money.
So they were patient. They were willing to be patient.
They were willing to be patient. And we wanted to make sure we ticked the following boxes. We wanted to make sure the technology was powerful, cloud native, global, and infinitely scalable, i.e. no tech platform rewrite, number one. Number two, we wanted to make sure we were at the highest standards of security and governance and compliance in the most rigorous environments in the world, including Europe and Asia and everywhere else. Number three, we wanted to make sure we had product market fit, that people actually wanted this solution. Many large institutions say to us, we're tired of the next point solution coming along that wants us to integrate. We want an extensible platform where we can do multiple things and we know it's going to grow and we know where it's going. We wanted to make sure of that. Number four, we wanted to make sure we had a fully functioning two-sided platform, which nobody else has today. And number five, we wanted to have quantitative results, clear quantitative results and metrics that showed that we were ahead of everyone else in the market by a long way. And last but not least, we wanted a very healthy, deep pipeline of customers ready to integrate and implement with us. Now, some of those larger players, as you said earlier, take some time, but that's okay. We see different speeds at which people implement. So that's why we did that. And we've done that. We've been told by bankers and by others in the market, the fact that you've done this with as little capital as you have and as quickly as you have is unheard of and bodes very well for what you'll do in the future with this business.
Well, you sort of saw it before, and you could apply some of those principles to what you're doing right now. Final question. So Markaaz in Arabic, in many languages, is the word for center of commerce. And that, as you've described it, seems to fit what it is, the mission and objective of your massive data network is all about. That also suggests that there's more to come. Not that what you've done already isn't enough, because
it's massive.
It's massive. But what is next? I mean, what about the roadmap are you comfortable disclosing with respect to what's next now that this exists, this is in the market, and people understand its capabilities today?
Karen, we're going to talk about these things a lot more together as we go forward, but I will share some of that with you, which we've not shared before. First of all, we've already demonstrated Markaaz as the most complete single source of truth for business data worldwide, number one. We will establish a trust bureau in terms of business data that has never been seen in the market before. We will add a dimension to payments that will enable real-time transaction-level financing and factoring in ways that have never been available, particularly to small businesses before. And from there, there's lots of things we can do. But imagine this as a silly little use case. Imagine a medical practice that's just started up, that's looking for funding to grow and expand. We will be able to say to that medical practice, this is what your profile looks like today. This is what other medical practices around you or anywhere else in the world look like. This is the gap. And this is what you need to do to fix it. Example one. Example two is a business that's looking to scale and might have some problems in their public data. We're going to teach them how to fix those things. And we'll probably do that through a foundation structure. We're very committed to actually making Markaaz available to everybody in the world, to help them, support them, grow their business, make the lives of enterprises better, more profitable, make the lives of businesses better, give them greater access. We talk about business inclusion. It's not a word that you hear a lot about. we're very committed to that. And we're going to do that through a foundation model going forward.
It's very exciting. I mean, what a remarkable achievement, and you've been so quiet about it. What I love about this story, many things to love, but what's so interesting to me is how businesses like yours operate in stealth mode, and one day here you are, and the opportunity for disruption, for innovation now exists that didn't exist 2 days ago, at least publicly in the market. I mean, obviously you've been talking to banks and others along the way, but the ripple effects of your presence in the market will change a lot of things, a lot of behavior. It will make some players irrelevant, some players more efficient and better, and that's the way innovation works. And I think this is just a great story of you never know where the next innovation is coming from, because there's lots of people busy working away, solving really big problems that create really big frictions for people and businesses. And you're just a great example of that. So thanks, Hany, for sharing the story with me.
No, thank you. It's absolutely a pleasure. You know, some of the people who are involved in this business, they've been, very significant and very successful in their own right. And, we get to ask the question a lot, how come I've never heard of you, to your point just now? And our answer humbly is, we need to do more about telling people about Markaaz. But we did keep it secret for a long time until we had all these things in place. And now, just watch this space. So thank you so much. You're a great partner, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today, Karen.
Thanks, Hany. Such a pleasure, and I look forward to the next opportunity to chat. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.